Greetings, all new hammer, middle hammer, and old hammer folks. I am Old Grumpy Wolf, and welcome to the Mini Bar Podcast. I'll be serving you up lots of awesome painting nerdiness, talking to other artists from around the web. But before we get started, I want to plug thebaselayer.com. They are a social media miniature website. You join, you post pictures of your miniatures, you can comment, you can subscribe to other people, you can like other people's pics, and by the time this video comes out, hopefully they have integrated the new notification system. So yeah, go sign up on thebaselayer.com and check out some awesome miniatures. But tonight on the show, we have a guy I've actually been following for, I think, like 3 or 4 years now. He's a amazing old hammer painter. I found him back, I think, in like 2021 or 22, and was just like enamored with his figures, especially his old Chaos Renegade Space Marines. And I'd like to welcome to the show, the way it's pronounced is Blue in Vermont.
That's right, BlueInVT.
Yeah, nice to have you on the show, man. Thank you for coming on.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, are you still in Vermont?
I am. Yeah. I've been in Vermont for about 25 years now.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Where'd you move there from?
I grew up in Southern Ohio, and then I moved to Texas for college, and moved up here from Texas. So up to Vermont from Texas. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I've been in Vegas my whole life, so I'm used to being in the middle of the desert. I'm going to the Adepticon in Milwaukee in March, and nice. my painting bestie, he was in Milwaukee for a while, and he's like, dude, you're gonna hate it. It's cold.
But there are trees and things like that around.
We have trees here. Which is nice. It's not just all sagebrush and desert plants and palm trees. No, we have trees here. Oh, we got a mountain range about 20 minutes out of town. It's Mount Charleston.
Nice.
You know, on occasion, we actually do get snow in Vegas. on a very rare occasion. I'm going to move your video over just a little bit so you're center. There we go. So to get the show started, the first question I always ask is, what got you into the hobby of miniature painting?
I came into it as a teenager, about 1 million years ago. Started playing D&D with some friends, and actually one of their fathers would paint our character miniatures up for us.
Oh, very cool.
And he did a pretty decent job. And these were old Grenadier miniatures mostly. But it was from him that I started to get interested in actually painting figures. Mm-hmm. And then I discovered Warhammer, or my group discovered Warhammer, 3rd edition at that point, and the rest is history.
So that was like roughly late 80s.
Late 80s, yeah. I went off to college in 92.
Oh, okay.
And played.
I think you went off to college when I discovered Warhammer.
Yeah, well, I went off to college, played a little bit of 4th edition through college, and then kind of dropped the hobby until, I don't know, probably 15 years ago now.
Oh, okay.
I actually been toting around my miniatures, for the last 25 years, and decided it was time I did something with these. So I actually went to look at starting to sell them. And that's when I discovered that there were actually, quite a few people that were interested in those old miniatures and still painting and doing stuff with them. And so I got really kind of in on the groundwork, the ground of the old hammer revival, I guess, whatever you want to call it, back in the early 2000s. So that's what got me back into it. Painting all the time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that must have been a bit of a culture shock coming back after so long.
Well, I have to say I paint the same way I did in the 90s for the most part. I haven't learned a trick since then. That's not completely true, but I still paint pretty much the same style I did back in the day. So,
like culture shock. I mean, just like I stopped painting in it was 2012, and I came back to it. I got back into it in January of 24, and I'd poke my head into GW's website every now and then just to see what was going on and see what the hubbub was all about, or if they were doing anything cool and new. And I remember, God, it must have been, it was a couple years, and I think it was like 2017 or 18. I poked in and saw that they were doing Primaris Marines, and I'm like, what are these things? Like, they still had a load of firstborns out, but Primaris was taking over, and I was like completely confused. Yeah. And to me,
no, I mean, I to this day have no concept of what's going on with modern Warhammer, and nor do I really care. I have to say, some of the miniatures are beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, and the paint jobs are amazing. But the game itself, I play Rogue Trader, 40K when I do play 40K, and I play Warhammer 3rd Edition. And these days, I also play Oathmark as my other game of choice. When it comes to Oathmark is just another mass fantasy battle system.
Oh, okay.
That I can get away with using all my old Hammer miniatures to play. So,
well, you don't play new rules. You're still playing on Rogue Trader. So yeah, I was going to say, like, are there any problems anybody gives you in modern times for having old Hammer or those old Chaos guys on the table? But it doesn't matter.
No, yeah, I don't honestly. I don't go play at the local shops and stuff either. That's just, it's not my scene these days. I would have loved to have had that when I was younger, though. I have a pretty dedicated group of folks that I get together with fairly regularly, though it's been less regular of late. And then I have some other old Hammer friends that I've met online, honestly, that we try to get together a couple times a year to play.
Yeah.
So that's most of my gaming it's pretty sporadic, but when it is, it's good quality gaming. So it's about the painting in between, right? It's about the painting and taking cool pictures of the stuff that keeps me going between games.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, well, I can only imagine how big of an army you have for both fantasy and 40K at this point, man.
And that's just the painted ones.
Yeah, I think what absolutely kills me right now in like modern times, and I obviously my heart's kind of in the same place as yours. I think yours is a little bit earlier. You're Rogue Trader. I'm both Rogue Trader and 2nd edition. But seeing the just the absolute price gouging that's going on for old Hammer stuff now is ridiculous. Like my first box of RTB 15 Mark 7s I bought, the Space Marine Strike Force box, I got it brand new in box in 2002. Off eBay, $25 shipped.
Yeah.
The second box I bought last year, the guy wanted $250. I was like, dude, I'll give you $175 for this and a box of RTB 09. It's like brand new in box. And he's like, oh, not a problem. I was like, oh, the Rogue Trader book, will you take $85 for it? He's like, yeah. I'm like, done. Here's the money. But
take it now.
Oh God.
No, it's obscene.
It's nuts.
Since the pandemic. Things have just gotten completely insane.
Oh, is that really when the price gouging started?
That's when I think it really got out of control. There were always some, particularly eBay sellers that you never went to, and still to this day have just terrible buy it now prices. But even in the trading forums and Facebook groups, things really got out of hand after the pandemic, or during the pandemic, and then it's just continued since then. Yeah,
I didn't know where the gradual flip happened there, because I'd poke around on eBay every so often in 2010s, and things were still reasonably priced. But when I started buying old Hammer stuff again for what I wanted to paint, I couldn't believe what it costs. I mean, like a couple Fridays ago, I ended up spending a fairly good chunk of money on a bunch of stuff that I'm going to paint, but it's specifically for Old Grumpy Wolf and to help promote the brand. But like even transfer sheets, like I kind of overbuy Rogue Trader era transfer sheets because I like how the Dark Angel symbol looks. I prefer how the old Ultramarines logo looks, and I like how the old Blood Angels logo looks versus what they came up with. Space Wolves, I like the redesign. The redesign looked better. The whole point is, even those things, sellers want anywhere between $5 a sheet to $15-$20 a sheet, and it's a little ridiculous. But I mean, I'll suffer. I really don't want to hand paint the old Blood Angels logo.
Well, getting consistency down, there's no way better than having a transfer to work from, at least. Yeah.
Well, I hand painted. I don't know if you saw my Chibi Marine that I painted up recently, but I didn't have a transfer that big, so I had to hand paint that thing, and that took like 2.5 hours.
And look, at least you had a bigger surface to work on, you know, because of the style of miniature there.
Well, I found a neat thing, and like if you're doing like on red or like any lighter color, if you're hand painting a symbol or a badge on a Marine or anything, paint it in white, and then correct it. You know, get it to exactly where you want it, and then paint over the white with black. Because the lighter color is going to cover over white easily, and you normally correct lighter colors of white to begin with. So you know, if you make a boo boo, oh well, red goes right over white perfectly, and then you get it to exactly where you want it, and black, you know, put the black in there, and you're done. Right on. So with you getting into the hobby and miniature stuff, did you get into it because of painting or because of gaming?
I'd say I really got into it because of the gaming at the time. I became Inmar, you know, it was just a group of like 5 of us in my high school that played Warhammer pretty much every weekend. And I became the guy that did the most painting. You know, everybody else just did what they had to. And we were mostly using the Warhammer Fantasy Regiments miniatures was like the core of our army. The first plastic multi-use set that they had for Warhammer. And, you know, we bought several sets of that, and everybody, you know, I took all the dwarves and the orcs and goblins, and somebody else took all of the
I know the dwarves box, the metal box for those.
So it was, you know, it was a good way to get a bunch of miniatures on the table. And then we would fill in with metal command sections and stuff like that. And so then we all, of course, wanted to have good looking units on the table. Yeah. And so we did get into starting to paint them. We never really got that far, I have to say, at that time. I had a small dwarf army that I could field that was fully painted.
No pun intended.
But it wasn't until I really got back into it later in life that I got more serious about really finishing up, you know, full armies at a time and making them look good. So,
yeah, it was who was I can't I don't remember what guest it was. It was somebody last week. You know, I'm kind of envious in some ways of people getting into painting now because of all the, you know, the resources available on YouTube versus the stuff that we grew up with, like, you know, the painting guides on like in White Dwarf and the paint in, or how to paint this and the painting guides in White Dwarf. It was like, yeah, white model or base coated model, washed model, completely finished model. Oh, and here's the 6 easy steps. It's like,
right.
What?
This Mike LeVay painted figure that, yeah.
Yeah, and now you can see the whole thing from start to finish on YouTube, and but where I'm not envious of is how bloody detailed everything's gotten.
Absolutely. Miniatures are way too busy. The modern miniatures, some of them, they are beautiful sculptures, but they're, you know, they're way too busy for me to paint. You know, some people excel at that, but nah.
Oh, before I forget, you mentioned earlier that you were into playing Dungeons and Dragons and whatnot. My guest that I had on tonight is the episode that comes out before yours. You might want to watch it. I played D&D with him a couple of times. Our local paint night on Mondays that I sometimes go to. My guest AJ, he goes there. Another buddy of ours, Chris, goes there. Chris, AJ, and the shop owner actually get together on Tuesdays every now and then, play D&D. And I went down and tried to play a few games. I just couldn't get into it. But dude is an amazing DM. Like, he's got like a little speaker he brings out and plays like theme music or like, you know, battle music while there's a skirmish going on. And you might want to watch that episode because he talks a lot about D&D on it. It's fun.
Right on. It's something that I played a lot when I was, you know, 10, 12, well, probably 12 to 14. Once we got into Warhammer, you know, the D&D games really dropped off. I did play it again a bit in graduate school when I was down in Texas, but never went into Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay or any of those other role-playing options. Don't know anything about Pathfinder. So, you know, I still love to look at the old D&D books, you know, my old Monster Manual and stuff like that, but haven't played in many a year now.
Do you think like what got you more so into Warhammer versus D&D was like the actual miniature aspect, whereas like D&D you use proxy miniatures every now and then, whereas Warhammer was all miniatures all the time?
I think so. Yeah, I think it was the pictures in White Dwarf with the beautiful tabletops, covered in beautifully painted miniatures and great terrain. That's what we all wanted. We never had it back then.
Yeah.
Which is why now that I, have had the time and some money to do it, I love it. Yeah. And it really makes me jealous of all that time that we didn't have that back in the day. But we still had a lot of fun doing it. So that's all that mattered.
No, you mentioned there was 5 of you in your high school that played Warhammer. I think like where I went to high school, it was as far as I knew, there was nobody at my high school that was into Warhammer stuff whatsoever, and it was pretty much just me and my painting bestie, and it stayed that way until I don't know, like we had hobby shops here in town that carried Games Workshop stuff. And there was some people that would go down there and play and whatnot, but like we were both in the painting aspect, so we'd always go to the miniatures case and finding other people who painted in Vegas. That was even rarer. And it's neat now having a community like Instagram and having the community of like Base Layer, where it's so easy to find other painters and other like-minded people to actually enjoy that side of the hobby with. And Warhammer, especially 40K, is huge now, so it's not difficult to find a place to play and find a community for it in anywhere you are.
Well, no, I had exactly the same experience with OldHammer. Suddenly I found people online. It's not like these were people in my neighborhood who were also like, I really like playing the old rules. I like playing with the old figures. And I was like, that's what I like.
Yeah.
There's other people out there like me, and then we all started blogs and we all started communicating between our blogs, and then forums happened, and we started chatting on forums, and then Facebook happened and we started being on Facebook, and it was great. You couldn't ever have that in the 80s.
Yeah, or even
internet
the 90s.
to do that with.
I mean, we had internet in the 90s, but it was nothing like it is now.
No, not like anything like this. And then, of course, Instagram, I think, is a whole nother level of super interesting community that, I only found, I guess it's been 5 years now that I've been on Instagram. And I found that to be very rewarding, and really motivating me to paint and to create scenes with my miniatures and post pictures of them, because the feedback you get is just great. So, the online community is a really important part of everybody's experience these days.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's
I found you when you were primarily posting your Chaos Marines.
Great.
So you were doing that for a good couple of years, and that's when I found you on my automotive account. And then when I started Old Grumpy Wolf a couple years ago is when I transferred it over.
Nice.
So I think I might have DM'd you from my automotive account asking like, "Are you going to do any more of your Chaos Marines?" And you're like, "No, I'm in fantasy mode right now." I'm like, "Man,
I need to get back to him again." I've got I think I've got 3 full squads painted, and I got 2 more, ready to go. I gotta base them up, prime them, and find the time to paint them.
So all the miniatures
some of my favorite figures, because they're all so interesting.
All the minis that you post and paint, like that's in your personal collection?
Yes.
Oh man, you're as bad as I am.
No, I mean, and like I said, that's I have quite a stockpile, which I've actually been thinning the pile down a little bit lately, trying to be realistic about what I'm actually going to achieve in my lifespan, and converting some of that into cash to focus on other things. So that's been nice, but I've still got plenty to keep me busy for
very cool.
many years.
Yeah, I've a lot of people ask me like, "Oh, dude, where do you get all your miniatures from?" I was like, "I've just kept everything since I was a teenager."
Exactly.
And now,
I mean, when I got back into the hobby in the early 2000s, stuff was still relatively affordable.
Yeah,
certainly compared to now. And so I was.
Oh God, Rogue Trader stuff in the 2000s was like pennies on the dollar.
Oh, it was amazing.
Nobody
and then
wanted
you hear, other people talking about the late 90s, it being like people are throwing it away. And
Yeah.
they're picking it up off the sidewalk. But I was able to trade the parts of my collection that I never really was that attached to, and turn that into enough money to buy things that I really had been wanting for many years. So I refined my collection and then was able to build it. And back then you could buy big lots of mixed stuff and, keep half of it and sell the other half for as much as you bought the full lot from. And, you could just build your collection that way. You can't do that anymore.
No.
Or there's not easily, anyway.
There's a lot of RT. There's a lot, not like a lot, but a lot. Just try. I think a lot of younger viewers have no idea what a lot is, because you can't really buy that. You can't buy that on do that kind of thing on eBay anymore for the most part, because everybody thinks collectors, comics and figures and everything is just, it's worth its weight in gold. But there's gold. A lot of RTB 15 Mark 7s right now, just the bodies themselves on eBay for like $95. And I'm frustrated. I'd buy them right now because I love RTB 15s. But the hardest thing to get is the arms. There's no arms with them.
Last thing you need is more bodies.
Well, I've got a buddy of mine over in the UK. He does like 3D scanning and 3D printing, and I asked him if I could send him some of the RTB 15 stuff, like including an arm sprue, and have him print me like infinite of them. And he's like, "Yeah, dude, send them over."
Yeah. I'd be surprised if they're not online already. If you know what rabbit hole to go down.
The RTB 15s they're an oddity. They're a really just obscure oddity. They were only available for I want to say maybe two years at the most. And GW, Jess Goodwin, redesigned them, all the bodies, the 3 bodies that were in the box and the arms he repurposed the bodies for the flat-sided arms for 2nd edition.
Gotcha.
So they only had that box set around for I think 2 years, and then gone. You couldn't get it anymore. So finding the arms is the hardest part. But like I said, he's got a 3D scanner and he doesn't mind doing it. So I asked him, I was like, "Hey, can you when you scan all these in, can you actually print me out 10 sets of the way they're supposed to be, and then 10 sets of them mirrored?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Cool, dude."
Right? Can you switch some guns around, put different hands on them? You could do all kinds of cool stuff once you have the digital versions.
Well, I could mess around with them in Blender. I know how to do that, but I don't mind converting those old arms because they were so easy. The ones, the arms now, they're so much detail that you can't really flip them without extensive work. Sure. Whereas RTB 15 arms and 2nd edition arms, they were just cylinders, elbow pad, another cylinder, and then hand. So you just slice them wherever, flip them around, and glue them back together. Yeah. There was no weird armor, indentations or shields or whatever the crap they have now. It's annoying.
Right. Purity seals everywhere. Yes.
Yeah. I bought a bag of 50 of those off eBay, and I don't know where they went. They just disappeared. I needed a purity seal for something the other day, and I was trying to find the bag. But I'm like, "Where did you go?" They couldn't be around you, man. With me admiring your stuff, I've always been curious. What paints do you use?
It's quite a mix, but these days the majority of my paints are Vallejo.
Oh, nice.
Model color and game color, kind of a mix. But I still have some really old Poly S paints that I use, which are just ancient glass bottle acrylics. There is a mix of, I do use quite a few of the old Games Workshop Foundation paints.
Yeah.
Certainly for my skin tone and things like that. I have a recipe that I use those foundation paints for. But that's the majority of them these days is the Vallejo ones. But I've mixed in anything that catches my eye when I'm at the hobby shop.
Yeah. Have you tried the new formula for model color and game color?
When did they change it? I don't know.
In the last year.
Probably not then.
Okay, I'll forewarn you, it's a little weird. It's still kind of the same formula, but everything dries matte now.
Why would they change it?
Because the big thing with model paint, or with what most miniature painters want now, is a matte finish. And they first changed.
I want that too, but you do that in the varnish. That's what the varnish is for.
Some people don't use varnish, but also what got me was, and this is one thing I've talked to a lot of people about it. Higher end painters understand this. When you have something that dries satin, And when you have something that dries matte, the paint that you overlay on top of itself, like let's say you do a satin base coat and then you start working up with a matte, the matte is actually going to affect the paint underneath. It's going to work on top of the paint differently than if you were layering matte on top of matte or matte on top of satin or satin on top of matte. I'm just getting confusing. But yeah, the behaviors between the two paints are different. So there were certain Vallejo colors that I really liked, and now they're matte, and I don't use them anymore because they're matte, and I don't the particular formula that Vallejo used when it dried satin, it worked really well, and now that it dries matte, it does not work the same.
Fascinating. So it doesn't flow as well. It doesn't spread as well.
It's not the spread. It's just when you start layering on top of it, the behavior is different. It's like some colors tended to dry faster than others, but now they all seem to dry just really fast.
Just really fast.
So the newer colors, they're in clear bottles, so you'll know the difference between the two.
Okay, well that's a good tip.
They've completely rebranded. Oh, and I hope YouTube doesn't get mad at me for saying this. The new nipple that they use on the new bottles, they get clogged really easily.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Was the one decent thing about their bottles is that they don't get clogged.
Yeah, I never had a problem with clogging until I picked up a few new Vallejo paints, and I'm like, I like their white still, and I use it for it's a thicker white, so I like to use it to cover up spillover when I'm doing darker colors, and that every time I open the bottle, I have to stick a thumbtack in there to unclog it.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
So the one nice thing though is the bottles are now perfectly clear, so you can see exactly what the color looks like, as opposed to the frosted bottles.
Huh? Yeah, I definitely haven't seen that new formula. Then I'm gonna have to look out for it.
Yeah, give it a shot. See what you think.
Like
it takes a little while to adjust to. So, well, you grew up. You grew up in the good old days. Did you ever use old Citadel color?
Yeah, I had a couple of the original paint sets, they came with nine paints in a set. And they were pretty much crap. Like the metals, I think the Citadel is always, and Games Workshop has always made good metal paints. And I loved the old chainmail color they had back then.
Yeah.
But specifically, like the reds and the yellows were just really hard to work with. I found them very hard to work with. And that's where I went mostly with the Poly S paints, which I really liked. And they are definitely more matte than certainly those old Citadel paints were like plasticky.
Yeah, Citadel tried in their third formula in the 2000s. They tried to go matte with a lot of the colors.
Yeah, so it's I used some of them. Some of them were great. Some of them were just atrocious. That was my experience with really early paint sets.
Have you tried the modern Citadel paints?
The most recent ones are those foundation paints, which I guess are not the modern ones yet. Like I haven't messed around at all with the speed paints or any of those.
I was just referring more to their modern formula than anything else. Like they changed the acrylic medium. It's like a weird clear gel now, and their base paints are what the foundation paints were. So if you ever need to replace your foundation colors, the base paints are what you're looking for. They're a little pissy to use because of the acrylic medium, but the coverage is still really good on them.
Yeah, those are the ones I use the most. My whole Empire and Dwarf armies are red and blue, right? So, and those are all based on those foundation paints. And I think a couple of years ago, I bought 3 more bottles of each of them when they came by on the trade group. So I been stockpiling those, as well as the flesh color, the flesh recipe I use from the foundation paints. So hopefully I've got a decent supply that'll get me through a few years.
If you're looking for like a really good paint brand to toy with that actually has like really good coverage and is very consistent with water, try AK.
Yeah, I've heard good things. Yeah, a couple of my other old hammer buddies are big fans of that line of paints. As you know from my figures, bright. I want heavy coverage.
Yeah.
I need really thick paint. I'm not somebody that thins their paint to a ridiculous level. I want really saturated, deep colors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're great for that.
Yeah, you definitely like AK. They're similar to Vallejo, like the old Vallejo formula. So you'll get along with them really well. And nice. They have like I've noticed with their paint line, a lot of their stuff is really bright, bold, and vivid. Like they go a lot of their stuff. Like you can get some of the more muted colors, but I've managed to actually replace all my 80s, 90s, and 2000s Citadel paints with their paints, and they work great. Like just really bright, bold color, like really cartoony color. They plenty of stuff like that. And if you want like a god tier red, Pro Acryl Pyro Red. Pro Acryl Pyro Red is amazing. It's like it needs a volume knob.
Nice. I'll definitely keep an eye out for that. Do they have like base sets where you can get like?
Yeah, I prefer buying individually, but yeah, there are sets you can buy from both Pro Acryl and from AK.
Yeah. I usually prefer to buy individuals too, but I won't be able to look at them before, so it might be good to just get like a swath of general color ones all at once. It's just something I'm going to have to buy online. But anyway.
Yeah, I switched. Most of my paints now are Pro Acryl and AK, so I have a handful of Citadel. I still like to use their metals a lot because they're similar to the old metals, and I've been slowly expanding my Army Painter, War Painter collection because they still dry somewhat satin. So there's certain blending techniques that those paints work well with that I prefer the behavior of.
Army Painter are the washes I use these days.
Oh, okay.
Just because they're the most similar to the old. So that was one relatively modern thing I liked was the washes from Citadel were good up through, I don't know. That was probably the early 2000s too.
Oh, they're
inks. I keep forgetting how old I am. Yeah, that stuff was great. And I think that the Army Painter is the closest, the most similar to that.
I don't like their shade paints, but Citadel contrast paints, they taste the same as the old inks do. They work really well. Their coverage is really good. It is a contrast based paint, but if you're used to the old inks, that's as close as you're going to get. And the neat thing is they have acrylic medium in them now, so that way when they dry, they don't reactivate.
Yeah, that was a bad feature.
Oh yeah,
the early versions of all those speed paints that I kept seeing horror stories about.
Yeah, and the neat thing about the contrast paints is they've got so much pigment in them. You can water them down to whatever opacity you want them to be, and you still got a lot of play in them.
So you can do a lot of layers and stuff.
Yeah, whereas like the shade paints from Citadel, like Known Oil that everybody goes on about. There's very little pigment in it. It's meant to just shade the surface you're putting it on. However, if you start layering it, because there's so much acrylic medium, it gunks up detail really fast. I learned that the hard way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's no good.
I was trying to wash over. I was trying to paint a gene stealer, and I washed over him with Known Oil. I'm like, why? There's no pigment in this. Right. And I did it like 2 or 3 times, and it just wrecked the detail. I'm like, okay, you're going in the alcohol jar to strip you later.
Back in the stripping vat. Yep.
I was so irritated, man. Well, it was the trials and tribulations of learning new paints versus the stuff that we grew up with. It was definitely an eye opener. But
and that's one of the reasons. I don't learn new things.
I
stick with what works.
I force myself
to. It takes forever, It's not
I force myself to buy new stuff because I wanted the convenience of just going down the street to get whatever was available now, as opposed to going on eBay and buying a bottle of. I don't use the color the way everybody does, but buying a bottle of Goblin Green for $35. It's like this thing was $3 20 years ago.
Yeah, right.
You already talked about your paint brands that you like. For your multi-piece models, do you paint in sub-assembly?
I don't. Well, other than I will often paint the rider separate from a mount if I'm doing a cavalry figure. But otherwise, I tend to, I prefer one-piece models.
Yeah, I realized as soon as I asked, I was like,
yeah,
wait, old hammer stuff. It's all single piece.
But not everything I have is single piece, but I would certainly assemble before painting.
Oh, okay.
I don't quite understand how you make that clean separation off the sprue and attach it without gunking it up again. So I like it all put together.
Oh, okay.
Just paint it all at once. Yeah.
Well, I suppose I'm painting a lot of Space Marines, so like where the Rogue Trader and second edition Marines go together, it's their arm goes on their body and then the shoulder pad goes over to the arm to cover up where they go together at. And then like for sneaky beakies, for the old the plastic sneaky beakies, I'll actually load the socket of the arm full of green stuff and then wet down both the putty and the plastic body and smush it on there and get the arms in the position I want and then take them off, let the green stuff dry and just sand it down. So that way when I put them together, it goes together exactly as it should, as opposed to like that stupid ball and socket design that never wanted to work.
With it again. Or it's slipping after it started to glue itself and then it moves on.
Yeah, I did exactly 2 sneaky beakies before thinking to myself, I can put green stuff in there. That works perfectly.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Oh, it makes it so much easier.
Well, and then of course putting together multi-piece metal monitors is even worse. I've done plenty of pinning and gluing in my day, but it's never fun.
No. It's so funny, like picking up you pick up like 5 or 6 plastic Primaris Marines in like one hand, right? And then you pick up one old 28 millimeter metal Marine in one hand, and those like 6 models in one weigh as much as the other. Yeah. I was at Warhammer talking to somebody, it was a while ago, and he had this gigantic Chaos engine on the table, and I picked it up and it was like, whoop! I'm like, wow, this thing weighs nothing. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm from Old Hammer days, dude. Like dreadnoughts and these big models back then, they were all metal. I was like, if you were a Space Marine player and you had a dreadnought on the table and you lost the game, you get pissed off, just pick up the dreadnought and beam the other person in the head and knock him out with a concussion. It weighed like 10 pounds.
Absolutely. It's just a giant hunk of lead throwing it around.
You ever do any of those? Have you ever painted up any of those like old dragons, like the multi-piece dragons and whatnot?
I haven't. The only Old Hammer dragon I have is the old Marauder dragon, which is actually quite small. He's a little guy.
Is that what Trish sculpted?
I think so.
Okay,
yes.
I think I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, and perfect for like putting in a dungeon or something, but not really a big impressive piece to have on the tabletop necessarily. So I never really got into collecting or painting a lot of the dragons or other really large miniatures, other than the Marauder giant is one of my favorites.
Since you mentioned it, do you, because you know the name of it, you know what it is, do you happen to know the history of Marauder, like why it was like a separate brand from Citadel or Games Workshop?
Obviously Trish is the person to ask this too. But my understanding is that they just wanted to have a separate line that was, not a competitor to them, but allowed that subset of sculptors and artists to do their own thing for a little bit within the same framework. And then they obviously marketed them through the same vehicles, through Dwarf and all of those things. So they weren't really competitors, but it was just like I don't know. So like Toyota and Lexus or whatever,
So Marauder
made by the same company, but just a slightly different take on it.
Marauder was actually part of Games Workshop?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Or it was still Citadel Miniatures at the time. Yeah. And eventually around the time of 4th edition Warhammer coming out, they kind of recombined.
Okay.
Yeah. And many of those metal units that came out for 4th edition were certainly Marauder sculpts, but now they were being sold as Citadel and Games Workshop miniatures.
Yeah, I remember that was always confusing to me when I was younger, seeing the Marauder thing mixed with Citadel miniatures, and I was never sure what that was. It was like a partnership or whatever, but saying, using the car example of Lexus and Toyota, it makes total sense. So it was just a sub brand that they made for like that specific art style.
I think so. Yeah, okay. I think it was a sub unit, and it was one that I found particularly attractive. Man, particularly the Puffin slash dwarfs are my all-time favorite miniatures.
Wasn't the original Ogre model under Marauder?
There's a group of, I think, 7 really fantastic Puffin slash Marauder ogres. Is that what you mean? Those guys?
No, I'm talking about the big one they made with he was holding a tree trunk. He was a big multi-piece kit.
Yeah, that's the giant.
Yeah, the giant. Sorry.
Yeah, I've got. He's back in the closet behind me. And it's just I think it's just the right size. It's about a foot tall. And it's not one of those big giant ones, or it's not one of the little stumpy ones that's as big as an ogre is now. And it's just a great miniature.
That was a Marauder piece though, wasn't it?
That's a Marauder piece, yeah. And since then, now I've collected the majority of the orcs and goblins from Marauder as well. Cool. And the Chaos Dwarves are
neat.
Another of my absolute favorites by them. So Marauder miniatures certainly a big motivating factor for me back in the old days.
I speaking of the Chaos Dwarves, I was over at Warhammer the other day, and I saw the new Chaos Dwarves that they just released. I don't like them. They just don't feel like the old Chaos Dwarves from like 4th edition, man.
Yeah, it's that I could say that about most, the dwarves that they have now that are flying around in blimps and stuff. It's not my bag.
I've got a couple of Tim Prowell's old Troll Slayers sitting on my desk that my nice painting bestie left at my house / Vaughn told me I was taking.
That's awesome.
I'll get around to paint them one day. They're mostly beard. It's great.
Yeah, mostly beard and skin. So.
Yeah, I always had a soft spot for the Troll Slayers. I thought they were fun models, just like these little short guys, just totally raging out.
Absolutely, they die in droves on the tabletop, but they're fun to. You got to have some in your army because they just die gloriously everywhere they go. So,
it sounds like Space Wolves. Well, actually, there's one faction they brought back that I really dig, and that's the new squats, the Voltan, whatever the hell they're called.
Oh yeah,
they look so good. Like, I think GW actually did them justice. Like the original ones, I thought were kind of campy and cheesy looking, like future Space Dwarves, but the new squats. They have they've got the whole like Norse kind of feel to them, and they just pulled them off so well. They look so damn cool.
I got to check it out.
Oh yeah, they're definitely an interesting range. I think it was the right time for them to do them. They actually did them justice, brought them out, made them look like they're not dorky looking anymore. They look like something that you don't want to meet up with, and it's kind of the same thing as the Gene Stealer cults now. When I got into 40K, Gene Stealer, the actual miniatures for the cults were on their way out, and somebody gave me like 20, 30 different, basically every variation plus a couple of extras of the old hybrid models. And awesome. I ended up selling them to pay rent in 2009. I wish I hadn't, but
yeah, those are worth a mint today.
Yeah, and what they've released now, I think Darren Latham was involved in the sculpting and like the whole art direction of them. But the Gene Stealer cults now, and what they've done with them, they kept all the flavor, all the charm, they really kept the essence of the original models. Every time I look at them, I'm like, these look so good, man. This is what an HD remake should be.
The reboot, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
great.
just, if you were in the hobby back then, you instantly recognize them. And you're like, wow, these actually still look like the originals. This is cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, curious, like you growing up, through the 80s and 90s, and even getting back into painting today. Who did you have anybody that influenced your painting style?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, certainly I spent untold hours just looking at White Dwarf back in the day, and the old Warhammer Armies book, right? The book that had all of the armies lists in one book.
That was hardbound, wasn't it?
It is a hardbound.
Okay,
I think they did release a softbound.
Okay, I'm saying that's the one I'm thinking of then.
As well. This is what on every long road trip that I ever went with my family, I'd bring that book and a notepad, and I would just make army lists for hours. And there was a guy in there, I think his name was Pete Townsend.
Yep.
No, that's the guy from The Who. Is it Townsend? Anyway, he had a really spectacular Skaven army in that book, and then I saw a bunch of his painting in White Dwarf as well. And he's somebody that certainly I always emulated. He had lots of really bold, bright colors. Mike McVeigh, of course, was just a stellar painter. Still is, of course, but at that time was certainly a very inspirational figure. These days, Kevin Dallimore is still one of my favorite painters. Again, bold colors. Those foundry paints. Have you ever used the foundry paints? Those are something that I would be interested to try too.
No, actually, I had. God, who was on? I'm losing track of my guests. Somebody recently had on. They were. It might have been Dave Perry. We were talking about foundry paints. They're not common. They're kind of uncommon. So like here in Vegas, I don't think there's anybody who carries them.
Yeah, it would be something you'd have to order online.
Yeah,
most certainly. But anyway, I digress. Though, lately I wouldn't say there's a more modern painters that I get a lot of inspiration from a lot of different people on Instagram these days, of course. But there's, I wouldn't say there was a big superstar who I'm modeling. Like I said, I don't do anything different than I did 30 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I grew up with, McVeigh, Kim Seibert, and Tim Prow are my three biggest old school influences. And, you can kind of see it come out through my work, but I've just, over the last couple of years, especially just worked to kind of evolve what I started so long ago. So I think that, the inspiration thing, from your founding tends to shape your world going forward, and then you just, as any good artist does, instead of being a derivative, you just take that, you just get into your style, you've got it, and you run with it, and you start evolving it.
Yeah, I like to think that's what I'm doing. I don't know that it's evolved a whole tremendous amount. I do incorporate some modern techniques. I really embrace the use of a wet palette. That's a wonderful modern adaptation.
That's the one thing I haven't been able to get into using.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I really, particularly when I'm batch painting and, painting whole units at a time, being able to use, mix the color and use it for 2 days is really handy when you're painting 20 figures at a time.
I can imagine that. I just use, as I've said in my videos, I have a piece of glass that I've had for over 20 years, and I mean it's gotten mountainous with paint. But I'll keep a bunch of water near where I'm mixing my paints, and I've got a insanely obsessive eye for color. So if I have to make it, if I got to mix two colors together again, I can usually nail it the first time. If not, it's real close, and you're never going to tell the difference.
Only you could tell the difference. Yeah.
Well, honestly, like unless I keep it as close as possible, and even with the unit together, you're not going to see it. But I've gotten into I've started really appreciating the triad system that modern paints have come up with, where it's like stepped base paints, And it for beginners, it's great because you know you're a 15-year-old kid and your mom takes you into Warhammer and you buy your first box of Ultramarines because that's what you always buy, the first box. And you say, okay, well, how do I paint these? And the GW guy says, okay, well, let's go over to the paints. Here's the 4 paints you need for the armor. Here's the 3 paints you need for the metallics, and here's the 3 paints you need for black. And you can paint up an entire consistent army with those, like hypothetically when you're done, maybe 12 or 15 set paints that you wind up buying. And for me, like with what I'm doing with my tutorials, I've wanted to get more consistency with my work, especially since not every piece I'm going to paint is going to be a showpiece. So with my tutorials, I try to come up with like modern off-the-shelf paints, and go from this to this to this, very little mixing involved because most people don't like to mix paints. It's kind of scary to them. But the worst of it is, I think in my Ultramarines tutorial is this blue and this blue, base coat with this blue, do a 50-50 of this blue and this blue. And then this blue is your final you have these base 2 midtones. Here's your first edge highlight and here's your final edge highlight that you just kind of do small areas with.
Yeah.
And
that's great, particularly if they are producing sets of paints like that do some of that pre-selection for you. I think about Kev Dallamore's 3-step process. He would do 3 layers and have a good looking miniature, but really he would do 3 paints and mix them, as you suggested, 50-50 and then 75-25 and then into the next one. And so it's really probably 12 different layers.
My stepping system, getting used in the triad system, came about because like I was racking my brain for like months on how I was going to do my Space Wolves tutorial, because all my Space Wolves up until that point were always competition pieces, and I'm like, there's no way I can show this on camera. This is like 20 layers of like 3 different colors being gradually blended. There's no way I can show that on camera and explain that. So
that
it was
looks exactly the same as the last layer. What is he talking about?
Yeah. And I know you can understand that as well. And for competition paint, when you're doing competition pieces, you're going to do a whole bunch of stuff that you wouldn't do for like, streamline stuff. You're going to spend 3.5-4 weeks on one model, building up dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of thin layers to create your gradient. And there's no real way you can show that on camera and make it interesting.
No, that's for sure. And that's something that I've never got into, that level of competition painting.
Oh, okay.
I really like to think that at least this is what I used to tell myself, is that I would collect units as much as I would individual pieces. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, that's true. Because I always have had the intention that I was painting miniatures for gaming with. And unfortunately, the gaming is, becoming less and less frequent, and the painting more and more, taking up more and more of the hobby, which is great in its own way. But so I have never had that experience where I'm spending that extreme amount of time on a single miniature, and that would frankly drive me crazy, I think. I don't have that much patience.
I think we're kind of like in your painting is good. I really like your painting, but you're saying like it would drive you crazy. And then me, I'm like I'll spend for competition. I'm okay with like 3.5 weeks to 4 weeks on one miniature for competition. But you've got the guys that are like taking home like, first, second, third place Slayer swords from Golden Demon. And I hear them talking about spending like 800 to 1,000 hours on like a few, like, one miniature or a couple of miniatures on a base. And I'm like, bro, that's just not fun. No. No. Yeah,
that's crazy. Well, and I guess the analog for me would be painting 20 of this, 20 miniatures of a unit at the same time.
Yeah,
that's going to take me probably a couple of weeks to get that done to the level where I'm satisfied with it. But the idea of doing that on a single miniature that's rough. I don't know.
You should give it a shot. I'd love to see what you could do, like with your level of painting as it is. I would love to see what you could do for competition, man.
It'd have to be the right figure.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, is that I have to pick a modern figure, and I don't know what that would be.
The thing I admire most about doing that is it shows like as you're, as you pick up, as your style changes, as you improve, as you figure out new ways of doing things, it's like the best you can do at that time. And when you walk away from it, you're like, wow, this is like one of the best things I've ever painted. In my mind, I'm like, I don't want to see this model again for another month. But it just shows where you are painting wise. And then if you do that kind of on a yearly basis, you can actually see the improvements each year of, where you've leveled up, even if it's like something silly, maybe a step that took you 45 minutes. Now you've gotten figured out a way cooler or better way of doing it. It takes you 15 minutes, but it actually ends up looking better because you're like, okay, this doesn't take me 30 minutes anymore. Maybe I'll take it 18 minutes and do it just a little bit extra.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
But it's interesting.
It's iterative, right? You're always building on your past experience. So
yeah.
That's
yeah.
Like if I ever go back and try to paint, or add some figures to a unit that I painted, even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, God, these actually don't really look that great now that I look at them up close. I painted this new one and making all the other ones look really
yeah. You're like, oh crap, I've evolved. This isn't good.
Yes. I hadn't planned on that. Damn it.
Well, like the Blood Angel down in the left-hand corner, that was my style for painting, like, I don't know, like a year ago of Blood Angels. And then I wanted to evolve the style. So I tinkered around with a test model, and then I did my Lamardes for LVO this past August. And I really liked it, but there was things I wanted to improve on. And I did a Primaris Marine as a gift for the local Warhammer owner in the same style. There was a few things I tried on that I didn't get to try on Lamardes. And I'm like, okay, I need to dial this back a little bit, and figured out my Chibi Marine is actually how I want to do Blood Angels now. It was just tinker around with the colors, how thick to get, how thin to get, where I want the final highlight to be, how big I want it. And now it's like, okay, I still want to do more of those old Marines, so I can go back to that, but I would like to do them in my new style, but nothing to look, they won't match the conundrum.
Well, this is where I'm afraid to try the contrast paints, because it's got to match all my other stuff. And is it gonna
the majority of old Citadel
different?
inks, if you're used to them, they still make them. They're just called totally different colors now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I just everybody's talking about slap chop and doing things quick and dirty, relatively speaking. And if I was starting from zero again, maybe I would get into that. But now it's too late.
Well, if you don't have to use contrast like the way you see in YouTube videos and whatnot, you can use it like exactly like the old ink washes. And if you want to try them and you need reference for the old colors, I can give you reference for like what is closest to the old black wash, what's closest to the old armor wash, chestnut brown flesh wash, brown wash. It took me, I had to buy a bunch of different contrasts to find them, but now that I found them, I'm really happy again, because it's like, okay, I have my old ink colors back again. Now my brain works properly.
Okay.
So if you want to give that a go, if you need help with it, just let me know, and I'll give you all the colors that I use, which are matches to old 80s and 90s Citadel washes.
Okay. I'll definitely keep that in mind. It's something I've been meaning to try, and many of my, online crew have certainly gone that road with spectacular results, no doubt. And it sounds like it can be faster, or at least help you move along a little bit quicker with painting getting some things on the table at least. So
the thing I will forewarn you about with contrast paints, let them fully dry. Do not paint over them. So when you notice when they're drying, they develop a small skin on the top. Let that dry. Otherwise, if you tear it off, it'll create a hard edge, and you can't.
And then you
can get rid of it, but it's a real pain in the butt.
Well, even with some of the old, the old GW washes, I found that was the case. If you went and tried to move them after they had started to set, sometimes you'd pull off that turkey gravy skin like thing.
Yep. Okay, then you know what I'm talking about. It's just let contrast paints dry completely, and then do your thing.
Let it go. Let it do its thing. Yeah, right on.
Well, we already went over this. We saw that. Oh, yeah, curious. Good question for you. How do you think, or what do you think of like 90s heavy metal grim bright box art style versus modern heavy metal box art style?
Excuse me. I certainly prefer the older style for the most part. I like as previously mentioned, I like the big bold colors. I've never been a huge grim dark style kind of guy. I certainly appreciate it when it's done well, but I think it can be a little grim and a little dark for my taste. So. I've never been a guy that really was all about the goblin green bases, though. That
me too, man.
That perfectly matches the perfectly green tabletop. That looks like a putting green or something is not really my style necessarily either. So I like the figures. I don't really care for the basing and the terrain that's used in those displays as much. But yeah. And I probably don't know that many of the modern box art pieces anyway.
I constantly get people on Reddit. Oh, it's great model, but base isn't goblin green. It's like, I don't like goblin green bases. I've never liked goblin green bases.
Yeah, no. I was back in the day. I had green bases, but I used the Poly-S. I think it was called Dragon Green. Mm-hmm. So mine were a different color green, but I'm all about the black base edge these days. I think it looks so much better than a solid green base. But that's my, tomato.
No, mine were directly inspired by Tim Prowl. Like he used to do like a dark brown, and I started doing it in the early 2000s with Citadel Flock, and I've just never stopped since.
Yeah, no, I brown is equally good. I'm checking these ones out here on the screen, and they look great with that brown base edge. You got to have the contrast though. When it's all the same color, if it's all just green,
that's like what used to bug me.
Frame on your painting, that's the way I look at it.
Well, you and I grew up. I still hear it every so often now, but you and I grew up, with the painting guides and White Dwarf and whatnot, saying, you have your base nice looking, but you don't want your base to overtake the miniature itself. And I found with the just on my models with the brown rim with the flock, it's just very neutral. And
I got into using tufts and stuff like that, but on a relatively modest level. And I totally agree that people. It's beautiful pieces of work, but it can detract from your appreciation of the figure.
Okay. Have you tried painting any busts yet?
I have not, and I haven't done any larger scale stuff either. I've been to, other than painting like something like the Marauder Giant. I've been sorely tempted though. There's some really beautiful pieces of work out there that I think would be worth spending some time on, but I have not ventured down that road. Is that something you've worked on?
I've done a couple busts, and I highly recommend them to people. There is so much room to work. It was like the first Tau bust that I did. I painted it for my local shop here, and I was just base coating it, man. I was just like, this is easy. There's so much room on this thing. And then I started working on the head, and I could actually have I had a really good time like creating more realistic blends on the Tau skin and face. And there was a few things like it was given to me as a solid printed piece, but there was a few things that like I would if I bought the bust, I would break it apart in 3D and have them all printed separately so I could paint every nook and cranny properly. But they're, the larger busts, the 50 to 75 millimeter ones, dude, there's just so much room to work on those things. It's so much fun.
Having a large eyeball to paint, to actually be able to paint an iris and a pupil and stuff would be really nice instead of just doing a little dot or whatever in there.
It's an interesting experience because like it's a different experience because you're for the most part, like you don't have all this detail crammed onto this tiny piece. I've seen some busts that are fairly detailed, but it's nowhere near the scale or the frustration that you have with, like a 28 millimeter or 30 millimeter miniature. It's, much larger and spread out, so you can have more fun with color and more fun with emphasis. And it's just a different way of thinking. But if you find a couple busts that you like, buy them, paint them, see what you think. I think you'll have fun.
That's cool. Yeah.
Because you can still do your bold, colorful style on them, but you can have a lot more subtleties.
Sure. Yeah, a lot more space to have smooth transitions. That's nice.
And like the bust that I did for my gal for Christmas, the bustier lady with the cat between her boobs. Like it was my challenge for that was trying to match my gal's skin tone. She's half Filipino, half Native American, and I had like 6 reference photos of her pulled up all at once, and in every single photo, her skin tone's different. Man, I'm just like.
Depends on the light. Right?
Pepper, you've got like chameleon skin. This is not fun. So I kind of picked a median of all of them and just went with it. And it was actually fun because it was challenging myself to make a more Asian skin tone.
Nice. That's good. Got to push yourself sometimes. Felt the same with painting some old Boot Hill Alamo miniatures and working on some of the Mexican soldiers and working on that kind of skin tone was an interesting challenge that I hadn't taken on before, which was kind of fun.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Which I posted a few of on my Instagram, but it's been a long time.
It's definitely it's fun doing like different ethnicities for the miniatures themselves, especially on busts. There was a guy at paint night. He was working on a bust of he wanted like a more darker skin tone, like African American or something like that. And he was asking me for some advice. I was like, yeah, here, start with this and work your way up to this. He's like, oh, it's not going to work. I was like, it'll work. And he actually did it. And he's like, oh, wow, it worked. Cool.
Yeah, you got to trust the process sometimes, huh?
I just throw things at wall until it sticks, man.
And you do it frequently enough, it's going to work at some point, and then you stick to that.
That was like my band.
Write it down.
My band I had with my best friend. I'm not a trained musician. I can't read music. I can read tablature for guitar, and I got fairly decent at guitar when I was younger. But yeah, I prefer working on the PC with synthesizers and stuff like that. So I'd throw things at the wall until it stuck, and then he'd write music over it.
Nice.
And then fix my incorrect note. What's that?
That's a good team.
Yeah. He's like he reads music. I mean, on a guitar and bass, like, oh Jesus, the stuff he did was insane.
Yeah. Some people just really have that knack. I'm also a tab. I'm a tab guitar player.
Well, yeah, I noticed your collection of guitars in the background.
Yeah, that's my other addiction is guitars.
Well, they're mostly acoustic, or?
I'm definitely an acoustic guy. I play old. So where my handle originated from is actually from when I used to spend a lot of time on acoustic guitar forums.
Okay.
So I was BlueInVT, and then it just was BlueInVT.
Okay, now that makes more sense.
Yeah, and so it's just the handle that stuck with me forever. So I play old acoustic blues music.
Oh, very cool.
I've got a wide variety of acoustic guitars, much to my wife's chagrin.
I had I've still got my Ibanez. I had a Fender. When I was a kid, I sold that. It was a Fender Squier, and then for my 16th birthday, my dad bought me the Ibanez that I still have now. It's an Ibanez Sabre with a walnut stock neck, like a dark walnut, and like fatter frets on it. And it's the Ibanez Sabre is the thin body.
Nice.
And I love that guitar to death. For a while when we were still touring and stuff, my guitarist had all of his guitars here, so I had like 8 guitars in my storage room. Yeah. He bought a new house a couple years ago, and I brought them all over. I'm like, get these out of my house.
That's time for you to take your guitars back. Yeah.
Love you, Bert, but I'm bringing your guitars back because I never use them, and I need that room.
Yeah, well, that's the point I'm at. I've got a closet full of unpainted miniatures, and I've got a pile of acoustic guitars taking up half the landing up here.
Every time Bert and I hang out, he's like, "Man, I'm gonna get a new guitar." I'm like, "You've got 19 of them." Yeah, but there's this really cool one that I saw. Oh, Bert, really?
But the next one is the last one.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. So. It's just like saying, oh, yeah, this is adding to your pile of shame. It's like, oh, no, I'm not going to buy anything after this. 2 weeks later, something else comes out. You're like,
yeah.
Didn't you say nothing? Nothing.
Sometimes you got to have the one in, one out policy, too. Is you got to move one along if you bring a new one in. So.
I have fortunately gotten better about not buying miniatures. I've gotten a lot better about it. I have like my painting desk is right here to my left. And I've got a storage box next to it with all of my unpainted stuff in it, like modern hammer stuff that I bought. And I mean, it's not a ton. It's mostly just single figures, but I've got my box of new Hammer stuff. I've got most of my old Hammer stuff put away. I've got a few drawers on my desk of stuff that I need to paint in the next 6 months, you know, for like stuff for my Ultramarines and Dark Angels phase for the tutorials and whatnot. Yeah. But I don't leave my stuff that I need to paint out. So it's like,
no, yeah.
I know you exist around my painting area, but I can't see you. So I feel a lot better about life.
No, that's good. Otherwise, it's a great weight pressing down on you at all times, like my cluttered desk that's just here to my right, actually, covered with half-finished projects. Collecting dust right now, unfortunately. I need to get them all cleaned up again.
At least if you got like half-finished projects floating around, you got stuff you can bounce between.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I have multiple projects going at the same time, because I do get, when I'm painting a unit, I get bored, and you gotta switch gears for a while and go to something different, and then come back to it when the motivation's there. So,
and I'm relegating myself to, I'm working on a squad of 5 2nd edition Ultramarines right now. I'm batch painting 3. I'm saving the 5th for the tutorial video because I'm trying to get the formula and the process well ingrained in my brain over 4 models. I got the first test model done. I've got the first Marnius Calgar to paint, and
classic.
I might do a squad of 5 Ultramarine Sneaky Beakies, the plastic ones, and then I'll have like an in-between spot. I might do something for Olden Demon. I don't know yet. And then starting in May or June that's my Dark Angels phase, and then I've got to pick what I want to do I know what I want to do for LVO. So I'm kind of like, I've got all my stuff planned out, and I can't deviate from it until after I'm done with LVO stuff, and that'll be Christmas time, and I got to start painting Christmas gifts again.
Right, and then it starts up all over again.
Oh yeah. Well, this time next year, I would just like to be painting fun stuff, or actually running my Patreon full time, where I'm painting. You know, however, I don't know what my tiers are going to be yet. I've sort of set up my Patreon, but you know, somebody, hypothetically a $20 tier member, they say, can you show me how you paint Skaven fur, or how you would do like a Troll Slayer's orange beard or something like that. So, you know, start actually doing challenges for me, which I think would be fun. But also, great. You know, painting specifically for, you know, tutorial videos for people on my Patreon, and then eventually 3 months down the road, throw them on YouTube.
Gotcha.
But this time next year, I'd like to be having fun again. Right now, it's just getting the 4 core tutorials done, so that way, oh, hey, does anybody know how to paint an Ultramarine? Oh yeah, here, I made a tutorial. And go take a look. I think you might like it.
Nice. Good. Do you have a plan?
To round out the show, to round out the questions, and then we'll dive into your Instagram. What advice would you give painters just starting out to help them avoid the pitfalls you've experienced?
Oh gosh. You know, I think it's good to experiment with different styles until you find the one that works for you. Don't be afraid to try different ones, and don't feel like you got to do what everybody else is doing just because everybody else is doing it. And when you find your system, you know, just start hammering it out, and it's just going to get better and better. The more you do it, and the more you repeat it, and the more you refine it. So, you know, I think you could spend your life, your painting career, chasing whatever the new fad in painting style, technique, whatever is, and never really get good at any one of them. So that would be my main suggestion, is just to, you know, there should be a period of experimenting until you find the one that works for you, and then just bear down and start doing it over and over and over again, and that's when you start getting better at it. So
that's a really good bit of advice. I like that.
Yeah. Because I certainly feel that pull even now, you know, like we were talking about before with all these new paints coming out, all these new processes. Hell, Army painters got the paint pens right now that you can.
Everybody's got those now. They've got their own versions of them. I've seen them all over the place. I'm like, wow,
that's crazy. They just popped up. But if you don't need that, then don't go looking for it. You know, I guess that's the key. Just because something new comes out doesn't mean you got to try it or do it or adopt it or change all your paints out or whatever the case may be.
I think it was either Army Painter or AK. I can't remember who, but they actually had a chiseled tipped a paint pen that was specifically goblin green for doing rims on bases with.
Just for doing edges.
Yeah.
Come on now.
I've seen a couple guys using them, using the new paint markers. I'm like, wow, this would be great for doing base rims with and make it a lot faster.
Yeah. No, I can see this is a place where I can see it, because I got to going back and painting the base edge after I'm done painting everything else and doing the terrain on the base. You know, and then you screw it up and you got to fix the whole damn thing again. So that's one area where having one of those pens might actually be nice, as long as it covered sufficiently and smoothly.
I'm frustrated right now because like the Citadel color that I use for the bases, it's called Doom Bull Brown. It's close to the old Citadel terracottas I could find, and I haven't been able to find anybody that makes that exact color, so I'm stuck using that for my base rims, and the coverage on it is so terrible. I have to do usually 3 or 4 thinned out coats to get it nice and smooth and even, and it's really frustrating. Whereas I have an AK color that's like about a shade darker. It's noticeable, and I love the AK color because it's like one coat and it's done, and it sticks perfectly. Whereas the Citadel is like, okay, I'm going to be here for the next hour coating this.
Right? No, that would drive me batty.
Yeah.
And I tend to base in bulk as well. You know, I'll get 10, 15, 20 figures painted up and then spend a night doing each of the phases of the basing operation, and then spend a night just doing edges. And the idea of doing them each 3 times, no.
Well, I was telling myself with the Ultramarines that I'm painting right now, I was like, no, I'm gonna batch paint them. I'm gonna do every stage on each miniature, and then as soon as I started painting the heavy weapons guy, you know, back when the Mark 7s had added bulk on them for the heavy weapons, I hit him and I'm like, oh, you're going to be a problem.
Yeah, right.
So I ended up just powering through last night and finishing the whole model. So I'm down to the Sarge and another troop, and I'm like, okay, I can batch paint these 2. They're easy.
Yeah, that's great. I've been, there was a phase where I was painting 15 to 20 figures at a time. And wow. I'm definitely finding it much easier to paint 5 at a time. You know, and if it's of the same unit, then you're using the same paints, the same colors over and over and over again for the most part. But big groups now drive me batty.
Oh, I can imagine. No, I think I'll do at most I'll do 3 miniatures at once. That's kind of my
I mean, certainly point. Doing big groups is the way you get them nice and consistent for across a whole unit. But you know, you can spend you do one layer of one color on every figure, and that's your whole painting session. Yeah. And then the next day you do the next layer on all the figures.
Yeah, I was finding that I stopped working on the Sarge and the normal troop when I got them up to their first edge highlight, and just focused solely on that heavy weapons Marine.
Yeah.
And I was hoping, I was like, man, I knew I shouldn't have done that guy. Because I did the Mark 6 Sneaky Beaky Blood Angels I did, and then the RTB 15 Mark 7s I did. I kind of did them in all apart. I did the first Mark 7 for a tutorial, and then I did 2 more randomly. And then the remaining 2, I got a Sarge that's at the bottom, and I got him in the mail off eBay, and then I paired another normal troop with them, so I did those over a period of a year. And then the Sneaky Beakies, I just kind of did those over a year as well. I had this original grandiose plan of doing 1 Mark 6 Sneaky Beaky and 1 RTB 15 in my favorite chapters. It was I wanted to do Space Wolves, Mentor Legion, Blood Angels, and I was going to do just Deathwing. And that whole plan went out the window. So the Blood Angel Sneaky Beaky that I did, I ended up doing a whole squad of 5, and then I built a base for them. And I was like, I'll enter this in LVO, and they ended up taking a silver. But I had to go back and update the first one because I did grays differently back then. So I had to make them the highlights a lot brighter. Fortunately, it was easy to do. And the same thing with the tutorial Marine for the Mark 7s, because he was a much duller gray, and I just snapped him apart, repainted him, cleaned up the super glue, and glued him back together.
Nice.
And the nice thing was I actually got to fix a few things because I dropped him twice. That was not fun. So yeah, that advice you gave, that's really good. Yeah, I think you're the first person to really say, you know, like once you find your groove, just stay with it and go. You don't need, you can, you know, experiment, but don't, you know, if you got your thing going, just stick with it and you get better at it.
Yeah, at least until you've, you know, quote unquote, mastered that. And then if you want to, you know, then you can start mixing in new things if you think they're going to add to your process. But,
yeah.
You certainly don't need to like totally revamp your entire painting style every time a new set of paints comes out, or whatever the case may be, a new technique.
Let's switch over to your Instagram really quick. I got to pull up my interacting. Yeah, that's the first time I've sneezed on my show. No, wrong window. Instagram, interact. There we go. One thing I actually wanted to talk about first on your models that really got me into what you were doing, because you were doing a lot of these at the time, was your dioramas, like just setting up your miniatures, taking pictures of them, and then adding little lighting effects and whatnot.
Yeah, I was having a lot of fun with this.
I thought that was really unique. Did you do that in Photoshop or?
It's an FX app that I had on my iPad. And you know, you can do the vignette around the edges to make it dark and mysterious, and add the smoke and the lens flare and muzzle flashes and all that stuff. So yeah, I spent a stupid amount of time fiddling around with those.
I thought it was so really unique and fun. I thought it was just really neat. It just really, I thought it perfectly encapsulated, like in my brain in the 90s when I got into this, like what these things would look like shooting at each other.
Yeah, that's great. And this terrain is all the original Battle Systems sci-fi terrain set. I don't know if you're familiar with them. You know, it's all card stock.
Oh, that's cool.
Printed card stock. And this is, like I said, the first version. They've had several more iterations of this terrain that are way better than this, but it's great for just you know, getting some miniatures on the table.
Yeah, you and my buddy Warheezy need to talk, because you paint really similar. I don't know if you know him or not. He was actually my first guest.
Yeah, I definitely follow Warheezy.
Oh yeah. You guys need to talk, because like you have the same taste in miniatures and your painting styles are really similar.
Yeah.
Actually, he was one of the first guys on here I started talking to. Are these the old Marauder orcs?
So those are actually the ones from that Warhammer Regiments box set.
Oh, okay.
These are the original plastic orcs that came in a box. You know, you got 10 orcs, 10 goblins, 10 skaven, 10 dwarves, 10 wood elves, 10 dark elves. And they're generally, you know, pretty terrible sculpts, but they have.
I thought they looked pretty good, but that's just me.
In mass. So. I had a unit of them way back in the day, and I sold them at some point, and it was really fun to purchase a big whack of them again and do them with my modern. You know, this is one area that the goblin and orc skin tone is something that I is totally different than the way I painted them back in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And that's something I picked up from Stone Cold Lead. Do you know Stone Cold Lead, the painter? He's also on Instagram. Just
probably. Is he an old hammer painter?
He's an old hammer painter. He does some more modern, not necessarily Games Workshop stuff.
Mm-hmm. I might know who he is.
Yeah, look him up on Instagram at some point. Spectacular painter.
I'll look him up.
And
right now.
I lifted this skin tone for orcs and goblins from him, and have, you know, now I've got a whole mounted goblin and orc army based.
Oh wait, Stone Cold figure painting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I follow this guy. This guy is really good.
Insane, and just a really nice guy too, and very very willing to share his recipes and stuff. So I really enjoyed painting these up, and the command figures there are some of the best metal miniatures from this period in my estimation. Great Kev Adams sculpts.
Yeah, hang on, I'm gonna scroll back. Oh, you're talking about these?
Yeah, those guys. Yeah, this guy's, you know, straight out of the Warhammer 3rd edition book.
Yeah. I have a lot of talks with people about like Kev Adams versus, I forgot the newer guy that started the Gorka Morka style, but it was always funny to me, like when I first got into this, and even in like my teenage years before the orcs were redesigned for Gorka Morka, I always thought 40K orcs were really silly because it was like these like, like skinny orc guys with like beer bellies that were wearing like, slack or like beat up slacks and a t-shirt. Those are the greatest threat to the Space Marines in the Imperium. And then when they came out with the Gorka Morka stuff, I mean, they were just like, all the orcs went to the gym. They got all swole up and buff. And I was like, okay, now I can see how these guys are a threat.
Are intimidating, yeah.
But like the Kev Adams style was very indicative of it was I don't know, kind of 80s fantasy trope. So seeing that could be easily translated over to 40K. But looking back now, it doesn't really fit the aesthetic with Space Marines. Oh, those old wood elves. I love that model.
Yeah, one of the greatest war dancer figures. Of them all, and this is one of the first figures I painted actually with this more modern. Again, recipe I think I got from Stone Cold Lead for the skin tone here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of my favorite figures, Glam. The war dancer. He's a perfect 80s figure. The giant hair and all that.
Is it? Oh no, that's not a Zote. What is that? Is that a Zote?
It is a Zote. Yeah.
You convert him?
No, that's a real old figure. That's the mage with the he's got the magic sphere there and the big mace.
They made a fantasy Zote?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I just learned something new. I always thought that was just strictly a 40K thing. That was part of the Tyranids.
No, there's a couple of them with that are more not magic users, just have big weapons as well.
And somehow all these fantasy elves are going against a legion of Chaos Marines.
Yeah, well, when you got the table set up, you just got to keep using the same setup.
What are you photographing with? Because your photography has always been really good.
This is honestly just with my iPhone.
Oh, nice.
I do almost all. I do have. I don't know if I have a picture of my light setup for my table somewhere on my Instagram, but I have like probably 10 different lamps.
Oh, okay. That's probably what helps.
It's all about light, having tons of light. Particularly if you're trying to shoot with terrain and stuff as well. So, and then I do a little bit of post processing, not a tremendous amount, but.
Yeah, you're like that was always one thing that got me about your diorama photography was everything was just it was a lot. It was what you wanted in focus was in focus, and it was really easy to look at. It was a lot of fun to look at. I mean, more of the diorama things going on here.
I certainly take a lot of pictures too.
Yeah,
I only use the good ones, but I take a lot, and then I end up using a few. Wow, this is one of my favorites. The guy sparking up under the steps.
Yeah. No, I didn't see this one. This is really cool. I like it. What are those from? So
these are from Alternative Armies. They're Ion Age range, which are actually Bob Ollie sculpts from the early 1990s. So I actually don't own any Games Workshop Space Marines. These are my Space Marines.
Okay, fair enough.
Back in the day, I actually had almost a complete set of Rogue Trader metal Space Marines.
That was a lot of Marines.
And I sold them.
Oh man,
when I was young and stupid, and I couldn't bring myself to collect them again. So I started buying these as my not Space Marines, and the guys that are up on top of the steps there are Ion Age Mustard Guard figures, which I use as my Imperial Guard.
Oh, okay.
Or Imperial Army, whatever you want to call them.
So was Bob Ollie one of the original sculptors, like for the Mark VI stuff, for Rogue Trader stuff at GW, or I don't know the name.
He did do a lot of Rogue Trader stuff. He did a lot of really oddball stuff in the 80s.
Okay.
The Iron Claw goblins and Iron Claw dwarves, which were kind of a spin-off of Not unlike the Marauder range.
Okay.
Citadel had these couple of subtle little sub brands back in the late 80s, and Iron Claw was one of them. And they were all Bob Ollie sculpts.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Bob Ollie's one of those sculptors you typically either love his stuff or you don't. Some people really are not a fan of Bob Ollie's style, but I love his stuff, and particularly these Ion Age figures are really quite good.
My thing was like when I got into it, Jess Goodwin had kind of taken over sculpting a lot of the 40K stuff, especially Eldar and Space Marines. So the old I like that little guy.
Yeah.
Like that was just kind of that. I thought the old Rogue Trader stuff, like I can even see it now, like they really hadn't established the design language all that well yet because they were still kind of all over the board. And then when Jess came in, he really standardized what Space Marines and whatnot should look like. But I will say, chaos wise, these old Chaos Marines, I still have a real special place in my heart for those. I love those old things because they were like so warped and twisted versus like the realistic warp and twisted we have now.
Yeah, as you can tell, I'm also a huge fan. I never had these figures back in the day. It was something I honestly played very little 40,000 back in the day, Rogue Trader back in the day. These are something I glommed onto once I had a chance to paint one. I painted one, and it's the one that looks like Boba Fett. I don't know if he's in one of these shots. He's a heavy weapons renegade, and as soon as I painted that one, I was like, well, now I'm buying these everywhere. And you try to buy those now, and they're like $30 a piece.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. So, and for exactly the reasons you said, each one is twisted in its own unique and weird way.
Yeah.
And I love all of those ways. And obviously I don't really adhere to the old kind of color schemes for the various factions either. I also think that the paint scheme should be chaotic. So my Nurgle Marine there in the front's got red armor. That's not something that most people would decide to do on that, but I think it works really well on these just totally bizarre miniatures. So.
I like the little Nurgling sticking out of his belly.
Yeah, right.
For Christmas, my gal got me. She bought me the first metal edition Titus.
Nice.
Or I'm sorry, Typhus.
Oh, Typhus.
Yeah. I've wanted. I know it's a 2000s miniature, but I fell in love with that mini when it came out. I thought it was absolutely gorgeous. I'm talking about Nurgle.
Yeah, right. It was disgustingly gorgeous.
But let's switch over to the end here. And is there anybody you want to give shout outs to? It can be 2 people. So. It can be 10 people.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, no worries. And with that said, we'll get to the mystery question. Your mystery question was left by my buddy AJ. And he asks, what fictional world would you like to wake up on tomorrow?
What fictional world? That's a good one. I don't know. That Avatar planet looks pretty cool. Whatever that's called. Better
bring a mask with you because you can't breathe the atmosphere.
That's right. Yeah, now I have to be transported into the body of a beautiful alien of some sort. Gosh, I
should have restructured the question. What non-fiction? What fictional planet by the name of Ryza would you, or what fictional planet would you like to wake up on tomorrow, and why would it be Ryza?
Why would it be Ryza? Yeah, other than that, from Star Wars, I don't know what's the best planet in Star Wars. Maybe Naboo seems like a nice place. That seems like a pretty cool place. Yeah.
Whatever Princess Leia's planet was before it blew up.
before it was asteroids. Alderaan.
Yeah, thank you. I could not think of it for the life of me. It's as if a million voices screamed out in terror and then were suddenly silenced.
Yes. Not dissimilar to these days.
I like using that line for just things that have nothing to do with Star Wars. Just like it's like a total non-contextual answer. People are like, what? I'm like, have you never seen Star Wars?
Yeah, what's wrong with you?
Okay, so I will wrap the show up. Thank you very much for coming on, sir. I really appreciate it. Stick around for a few minutes afterwards because I want to chat. But
Sure,
in the meantime, here's a couple more videos for you guys. As I keep saying, I have no idea what's going to be out by this time because I've got a busy month and a half until I go to Golden Demon. So I will talk to you guys next time. Thank you for watching.